What's going on YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 build video. And today's build video is going to be all about Dark Hours Raid and PvP. That's right, I have used this build in both the Dark Hours Raid and in PvP. I'm going to show you gameplay of both, so don't you worry. Now this is going to be a crazy high damage build, so just be ready for that. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to actually just jump right into the gameplay. I'm not even going to talk about the build yet, and I'll let you figure out what kind of build it is. Obviously with the thumbnail and the title, I'm sure you already know, but I'm going to kind of, keep it a little suspenseful and show you some gameplay footage of both me using this in the raid, and then I will explain exactly what I did with that mechanic after the gameplay. And right after that, I'm going to show you the PvP gameplay, and then we'll get into the build breakdown. How about that? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the gameplay. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment section below what you think. But alright, let's go ahead and roll that footage. Come on. Alright, so you just saw me use this in the raid. Now,
God, I love this repair module. It's working. Put those mounted guns out of action. Right there. Damage the defensive module. On me, now.
Vital signs critical. Defense system reactivating. Defense system reactivation. Defense system disabled. Agent down.
Somebody take out those mounted. Look out the repair module.
Let's hope that system is just a prototype. Head to the hangar and see if you can dig up cargo.
alright, so you just saw me use this in the raid. Now, I did not show the PvP gameplay yet because I wanted to go ahead and explain to you what you just saw. So, within the raid, your very first boss is going to be Boomer. Boomer is basically a huge chunga that around, and you take him down by shooting him in the back with the turret. He will drop to a knee, and then that way you can damage him. However, there is another way you can damage Boomer, and that is with using this build. Not only that, but if you can get people to use this build all around the map doing ad control, you can actually get Boomer down pretty damn fast. So what I did in that gameplay is I was at Donut. That was my position for ads on Boomer. And what I would do is I would make sure I had my Negotiators mark on Boomer, and then I'd just go back to just taking care of my ads. Now, using really high damage, really high crit, really high burst damage, what you can do is you can melt those NPCs while damaging Boomer. So without doing the turrets and all that, you can actually hurt Boomer and kill him just by using this type of build. But alright, that's about it for the raid mechanic part of it. Let's jump into the PvP, because I know a lot of you like to see PvP. So what I did this morning is I threw this build together and I jumped into a match of PvP, and well, this happened. Enjoy the show. And don't forget to hit that like! Alright.
You won. Well done.
Rogue explosive seeker mine detected. Agent down. Assault turret detected.
Alright, do it again. 15 minutes. Alright, welcome back. That was just one game of PvP using this build. I went 10-1 and was just massacring everybody with this build. It's ridiculous. Not only does it work wonders for Boomer and the Dark Hours raid, but it also smacks in PvP. So let's just go ahead and talk about it. Now I am here at the firing range because I do want to show you guys a couple things before I do the full build breakdown. Alright, so here it is. This is the Banshee Negotiators Dilemma build. Now, the reason I'm using the Banshee is for the high crit, the high burst damage, and for the Negotiators. Now, Negotiators is based off of crits, and the Banshee has some insanely high crit damage. Now, if you remember in the past, I did have a Negotiators Dilemma build with the Eagle Bearer, which works just fine. In fact, I am a huge fan of the Eagle Bearer. It's a great weapon. However, using the Banshee SMG for a Boomer strat is better for the raid. Reason being is you can hit a lot harder with the Banshee SMG opposed to the Eagle Bearer. Now, the Eagle Bearer, it hits pretty hard. Let's look at the numbers here. So here's my Banshee SMG. I am just at 60 crit chance, which is max, and then I'm at 196 crit damage. Now I cannot lower the crit chance at all because it's a SMG. All of my mods are all crit damage, and all of my boop-a-doop-a-doo. I mean, I guess I could lower this to accuracy, but what's the point in that? So everything's rolled crit damage. I have all crit damage mods, and with that said and done, with the Negotiators Dilemma, I'm sitting at 60 crit chance and 196 crit damage. Now, let's compare that to the Eagle Bearer. So here's the Eagle Bearer. I'm at 47 crit chance and 201 crit damage. Now, for me personally, what I tell my clan is that if you are using the Eagle Bearer or an AR with this build, you need to have at least, 40 crit chance and 200 crit damage. Reason being is that during the raid, you have multiple people using the Coyote's mask, which means you have multiple procs that will help you reach that max crit chance. So if you can, just go straight crit damage as much as you can. Now the problem with me is I am using an SMG, which already comes with this one has 18 crit chance. So I'm already 18 crit chance higher on this than I would an assault rifle. So it is actually pretty hard to run this build with like really low crit chance because your SMG already comes with it, the Coyote's mask comes with it, the Negotiator's Dilemma comes with it, so you get a lot of crit chance from a lot of different spots. However, let's look at the numbers here, because a lot of people still use the Eagle Bearer, which is fine, but I want to show you the Banshee. Now, just giving you the baseline number, here is the Eagle Bearer. So 484, okay, and then it jumps into 586. Okay, 586. Let's look at it again, 484, and then 586. Yes, 586. Okay. Now let's look at the Banshee SMG. So remember, 586 is the number to beat. And now I'm at 664. I am 80,000 more per bullet with this weapon than I am the Eagle Bearer. Not only that, but if you rewind the raid footage, you would see that this Banshee hits for over 1,000,000 damage per bullet when using this in a raid team. And that's because multiple people were using Negotiator's Dilemma and Coyote's mask at the same time, and we're helping each other out. So you could hit over 1,000,000 damage per bullet with the Banshee SMG during that raid. And that is what destroys Boomer pretty much instantly. You can use this build for speed runs in the raid, flawless runs in the raid, what have you. But this is by far the best way to run Negotiator's Dilemma for Boomer. Alright, now let's get into the build breakdown. So shout out to the DoD, Disciples of Doom. We're on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. However, I myself personally am only on console, so you can see me on PlayStation or Xbox. Alright, let's get into the build breakdown. So here is my Banshee Negotiator's Dilemma build. Starting off at the top, I am using the Survivalist specialization. Reason being is it's for the raid. I'm using this because during the raid, I typically use the crossbow for Razorback. And what I do with all my raid builds is I make sure they have the Survivalist specialization on them. That way I can switch all my builds and keep the same specialization. That way I don't lose my specialization ammo for Razorback. Now, you can use whatever specialization you want, obviously. However, just remember that the Survivalist also gives you protection from elites. So you can use the crossbolts for Razorback, and you also get protection from elites for the entire duration of the raid. Now, obviously, next year, whenever they come out with the update, we'll have to do some, reworks to some of these builds and see how crazy we can get them with the whole specialization rework. But it's only, October? So we still have a few months before we can even think about that. So Survivalist is your best bet. You can use the crossbolts for Razorback, and you also get protection from elites. Now, looking at the build itself, I'm using 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma, including the backpack. That is vital. You want the backpack, and I'll explain why in a second. I also use the Coyote's mask. Like I said, if you have 3 different people using the Coyote's mask, you can get all 3 procs at once, and it helps out the entire raid team. And then finally, the Grupo Sombra chest piece, with glass cannon. You want this because you want as much crit damage as you can, and you want glass cannon, that way you can hit as hard as you can. Like I said, you can rewind the gameplay. I am hitting over 1 million damage per bullet with my Banshee in the raid once we have all those procs set up. Now let's get into the weapons. So starting off with my primary, of course, it is the Banshee Smg. Now this one is sitting at 115.7k total damage. That's with max SMG damage and max damage to targets out of cover. I do not have max crit chance on here, and I don't need it. I'm already at max 60%. Now the talent that really helps me get my damage up there is measured. The top half of the magazine gives me a plus 20% rate of fire, but it takes away 30% of my damage. However, the bottom half of the magazine takes away that rate of fire and then gives me that 30% weapon damage back. Now that 30% weapon damage is what bumps me up to that, 80,000 per bullet more than the Eagle Bearer, and that part of the magazine also gives me that over 1 million damage per bullet in the raid. So it's pretty vital using measured. Now, if you don't want to use measured, you could use Ranger, Optimus, things like that. But for me personally, I use measured because the first half of the magazine usually helps me knock off a good portion of the enemy's shield. And then that last half of the magazine just does all that damage, and you're also damaging Boomer at the same time. It's pretty legit. I really do like running Negotiators during dark hours. It is a lot of fun. Now my secondary is the Eagle Bearer. Now we already tested this one out and it still hits like a Mack truck. However, it does hit a little bit lower than the Banshee once it's in that bottom half of the magazine for that measured. Now this one is God rolled, so we have max AR damage, health damage, and headshot damage. It's sitting at 118.9k total damage, just sitting here. I wonder if I can make that any... No, I can't make that any higher because I don't have any Fenris and I don't have any Walker Harris. Now, the cool thing about this weapon is the talents. It has Eagle's Strike, and then it also has Tenacity. Now the Eagle's Strike, it increases your accuracy the more you shoot it, up to 30% more accuracy. So it laser beams once you're, getting into the groove. Now when you get headshot kills, that's when it buffs that Tenacity, and the Tenacity strength is based off of whether you killed them, increase with body shots or headshots. Now, Tenacity itself, you can negate 40 to 80% damage taken until the buff expires. However, if you can get 3 kills while the Tenacity is active, you will not take any damage at all, 100%. Pretty wicked. I love this weapon. But it is, again, all about the Banshee SMG. It does hit harder than the Eagle Bearer. And then my sidearm, I really don't use this in the raid or in PvP, but I like to have it. It's my double barrel sawed-off. I'm sitting at 1.4 million total damage with max shotgun damage. We have 7 damage to armor and 8 damage to targets out of cover. Now, it has preservation on there right now, so if I am in a pickle, I can, two-shot somebody and get more armor on kill. Alright, those are your weapons. We've already talked about the specializations, so what's left? Let's do a deep dive into the build. Starting off with the mask, the Coyote's mask. This one is a must for this build. In fact, backing up, this is the only way you should run this build, period, point blank. Reason being is you are using this for Boomer in Dark Hours raid. The Dark Hours raid is nothing but a DPS check, and this checks off that box pretty clearly. Now, using the glass cannon, that is pretty pivotal as well. What you want is glass cannon, that way you can burst down these enemies. A lot of people are worried about that incoming damage, but if you are bursting them down so fast that they can't react, they're not going to hit you. This is how all of those clans do their speedruns in the raid, and this is how they get through Boomer, in seconds, is because they use this with the glass cannon, the Coyote's mask, which procs from all the different people using it, and the Negotiator's Dilemma for Boomer. So yeah, every part of this is really, really important. You have to run the 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma. You have to run the Negotiator's Backpack. You have to run the Coyote's Mask. And for more crit damage, you have to run Grupo Sombra with Glass Cannon. So just remember that. This is a very one-off build. This is the only way you should run this build. Alright, back to the Coyote's Mask. This one is God rolled, so I'm at max weapon damage, crit chance, and crit damage. I have a max crit damage mod on there as well. Now, what I keep saying about everyone getting the buff and have multiple people run it, it's for this talent right here, Pack Instincts. You and your allies will gain a bonus based off of the distance you hit an enemy. Now, for 0 to 15 meters, you get 25 crit damage. 10 to 25, you get 10 crit damage and 10 crit chance. And then for 25 meters plus, you get 25 crit chance. So if you add these things up, when you get all of these buffs at the same time, you're getting 35% crit chance and 35% crit damage. So that's why whenever I have people run this build with an assault rifle, I say, hey, try to, stick to 35 crit chance and then just bump everything else into crit damage. Reason being is that once all of these Coyote mask proc at the same time, you're going to get max crit chance anyways. So it's smarter to just knock it off at the 35% crit chance range and then just go straight crit damage. Now for me personally, using this with the SMG, that is way harder to do. So the way I would say to do it is to just have everything spec'd into crit damage, and it is what it is. Now, the next part is the chest piece. Grupo Sombra chest piece. Now this one can be optimized a little bit, so I am missing 0.8% crit damage. Shame on me, shame, shame. Now the Grupo Sombra brand set bonus I get from this build, 15% crit damage. Now as far as the attributes go, I have max weapon damage and crit chance. I have that 10.2 crit damage as the attribute, and then a max crit damage mod. Putting that together with Glass Cannon, which amplifies all damage you deal by 25%. This includes the Negotiator's Dilemma damage. Alright, which goes into my Negotiator's Dilemma. So I'm going to start off with the backpack because it does have that extra talent, and we'll talk about it here in just a second. But the Negotiator's Dilemma gear set bonuses I get from this build. I get 15% crit chance from the 2-piece, 20% crit damage from the 3-piece, and then the 4-piece I get that Hostile Negotiations. Now, Hostile Negotiations. Crit hits will mark an enemy for 20 seconds. Up to 3 enemies total. Now when you critically hit one of those 3 enemies, all the damage you deal, let me scroll down to the bottom. Now right here I am using the backpack, so critical measures. It increases that damage from the Hostile Negotiations from 60 to 100%, so just remember that. Scrolling back up, so it says, whenever you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies will take 100% of that damage dealt. And then whenever a marked enemy dies, you will gain 2% crit hit damage, stacking up to 20 times, or until the combat ends. So you can get up to 40% more crit damage just by using this and killing NPCs. It is insane. Cuckoo bird insane. Now, you're not going to get the full Negotiator's bonus. You're not going to get all that 40% crit damage just from Boomer because it goes by so quick. You're only going to kill maybe a dozen enemies. So, take that with a grain of salt. But what you should know is using this backpack with the talent critical measures, you get 100% damage dealt from one enemy to all enemies. So they all melt at the same time. Now as far as the attributes go, max weapon damage, crit damage, and a crit damage mod. Going to the gloves, Negotiators Dilemma, max weapon damage, and crit damage. Going to the knee pads, again, max weapon damage, and I'm missing 0.1% crit
You have
damage.
received an invite to another agent's group.
And then the holster, max weapon damage and crit damage again. So everything is rolled crit damage, and I have the Grupo Sombra for more crit damage as well. You're using the Coyote's mask to give everyone on your team more crit chance and crit damage, and you're using the Banshee, which is just under 200% crit damage alone, and it can hit for over 1,000,000 damage per bullet. This build is insane. Now looking at the skills, I'm using this for the raid. I'm using a Reviver Hive just in case I need to pick someone up, and I'm using the Riot Foam just so I can stick the enemies right there in their spawn. Pretty simple. You stick the enemy, you burst them down with the Banshee, and you are good to go. So let's finish off with the stats and get out of here. Now the weapon stats, this is going to be for the Banshee SMG. 115.7k weapon damage, 38.5k PvP weapon damage. I'm at max crit chance and 196 crit damage. I also have 70% headshot damage. Going to the offensive tab, I have 100% all weapon damage bonus and 30% SMG damage bonus. So every time I use the Banshee SMG, I get 130% damage bonus total, and that's just starting out. Now remember, I am using the critical measures on the backpack, so I get 100% damage dealt from one enemy to all enemies that I mark with Negotiator's Dilemma. I also have glass cannon, so all of that damage is amplified by 25%, and I am running it with the Coyote's mask, so in the raid, when you get multiple people to proc it, you can get upwards of 35% crit chance and 35% crit damage. Now looking at the defensive tab, 726k armor, just under 336k health, with that 10% protection from elites, that is from the survivalist specialization. And then I have 10% explosive resistance and hazard. Now these are due to my watch level. So every time I do a build video, I like to do this disclaimer. So, as of making this build video, I am shade level 2734, meaning all of these attribute boxes are maxed out 50 of 50. Now, if you copy and paste my build and you are over shade level 1000, you should have all of these boxes maxed out, and you should get the exact same numbers and results as I do with this build. However, if you are below shade level 1000, some of these attribute boxes will not be maxed out. So when you go to copy and paste my build, you might not see the exact same numbers in certain areas because you are not shade level 1000. So that is a pretty vital part of this build. Alright. There you go. This is my Banshee SMG Negotiators Dilemma build. I use this in the Dark Hours raid and PvP. It's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I am Kamikazevondoom, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.